Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Rewrite the Mother Code with me, your host, Dr. Gertrude Lyons. I have a special guest. All my guests are special, and I'm really excited to have on the show and have a conversation with Kristin Mundy. So I have followed Kristin on Instagram and just love her work and reached out and asked her to be on my podcast, and she said yes. So I love how we can use social media to do such things. It's wonderful. Let me tell you a little bit about her, and then we'll bring her on. So Kristin Mundy is a birth, postpartum, and bereavement doula, childbirth educator, and the founder of the Doula Life, a space devoted to supporting women navigating life after baby loss, pregnancy after loss, and the tender path of trying to conceive again. Through her programs, The Haven for Pregnancy After Loss and Mother Like No Other, for those navigating next steps, Kristin helps mothers reconnect with their intuition, rebuild trust in their bodies, and find safety in both their grief and their hope. As a mother to her daughter, Senna, and her two angel babies, Vienna and William, Kristin's work is rooted in lived experience and a deep belief that healing and motherhood can coexist. She also hosts the Rainbow Connection podcast, which I'm excited to record with her in a few weeks, a podcast designed for mothers who are finding their way through life after loss. Her mission is to help women remember that they are more than their loss stories, that they can mother themselves with the same compassion they long to give others, and redefine what motherhood means in their own truth. Not a stretch to, if you know anything about me and my work, to see why I'm attracted to Kristin and why I would love to have her on the show. So I'm really looking forward to our conversation and can't wait to share her with you. Here we go. Here we are, as promised, with Kristin Mundy. Kristin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I loved reading your whole introduction and bio. It's actually beautifully written and was very easy to
get a good understanding.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's, me sharing you and you on paper. So I always love to start out hearing directly from the source, some of your journey that led you to be doing what you're doing now with your beautiful doula work and podcast and working with moms in bereavement. We have a lot of ways to connect our work, and I'm really looking forward to digging into that. But first, let's just hear all about you.
Yeah, I would love to share. So my journey to where I'm at now, it's been a winding road, and I'm sure it's a winding road for everyone. I'm sure the rest of my life is going to be windy as well. But a little bit about me. So I am currently living in just outside of Toronto with my husband and our daughter. And my journey to get here, it's hard to know where to start, right? Sure. So I guess the biggest catalyst in my life, I grew up, in Niagara. I have a big family. I have 4 brothers. I'm the only girl. And I think this is probably what shifted and shaped me the most, because I always grew up as the only girl and the only one that was a mother or had motherly energy. And I became my mother's helper, since the moment my brothers were born.
So you're the oldest?
No, I'm the middle. So I have 2 older.
Middle.
And
2 older,
younger.
okay.
Yeah. So when my younger brother was born, that's kind of when my role as a daughter shifted to become my mom's helper. And that's when I first knew that I wanted to really be a mother, because that's what I witnessed every day. And then I had another little brother, and that role, got bigger. And it's funny because now I am a doula, and we'll get to when that happened. But doula, the translation literally means mother's helper. And that's
true.
Where it all started was, me being a sister. So that was my upbringing, just, being a girl in a man's kind of world and trying to figure out what being feminine, where I fit in, everything about that in that world. Sure. And like I said, I knew I always wanted to be a mother. And then one day, I unexpectedly got pregnant and I was 24 years old. It was not planned. And that's where I had a huge shift in my life. The moment I saw those two pink lines, I had already felt like a mother just from growing up. But that's when I was like, oh, I'm stepping into this role. And my heart changed. It was a very wanted baby, a very wanted pregnancy. And then that pregnancy, I unfortunately lost that pregnancy. And I remember that's when kind of lots of things got uprooted. I then went on to, meet my husband years later, and then made the conscious choice to, step into motherhood and start trying. And we got pregnant. And again, we experienced another loss. And grappling with loss was really different because felt like a mother. I didn't have a baby. No one else viewed me as a mother. And I was just kind of lost in this limbo. Then we got pregnant again, and I got pregnant with my daughter, Vienna, and we ended up losing her at 31 weeks pregnant. Wow. And that's where, I had already experienced so much loss, and I had already grieved so much over, my first two pregnancies and those two babies. But this is where the world really shifted, because now not only did I have a pregnancy for 8 months, but I also birthed a child and held my child and looked at my child and said goodbye to my child and cremated my child, all things that you're not really supposed to do. And I still had the world not see me as a mom.
As a mother.
Oh. Right? Because what we see is motherhood has always been viewed as having a child on earth and tending to that child. And I didn't have that. So I was again left in limbo. We then got pregnant again. And, our doctors told us we got struck by lightning when we lost our daughter, Vienna. And then we got struck by lightning again. And we lost my son, William, just shy under 18 weeks. And again, I was birthing a child and holding my child and kissing my child, saying goodbye, and then going home and not being able to put that love anywhere, that motherly energy anywhere, and having the world not see me as a mom, even though I was transformed and I felt that I was a mom. And it really was this just unraveling of what motherhood actually meant. In between all of these pregnancies, I did become a doula. So that's kind of what brought me to where I was today. And this was before, I lost my daughter, and I was serving mothers, being a mother's helper, stepping into that doula role. And I had witnessed, on the daily, mothers stepping into that role and helping them in that role in that very transformative time. And then going through this massive grief and this huge transformation, that role significantly needed to change because I was awoken up to this other world of mothers who had lost their child and was told, not viewed by society as a mother. And that's where my care shifted to take care of them. Yeah. And to also, and we could probably get into this more, but there was also this huge uncovering of mothering myself. And stepping into that role as well, because, when do you need your mother the most? When you go through unimaginable grief and transformation, right? So there was also stepping into that role too. So now my work pretty much 100% revolves around mothers who have experienced loss. So either mothers who have said goodbye to their babies and are kind of in this aftermath and in this, rumbled world of finding themselves and tending to themselves and navigating next steps and supporting them through that and supporting them and showing up as that mother role for themselves. And, walking alongside them as they learn how to mother their babies in the sky. And also the women who, step back into the flames and try to do it all over again in hopes of bringing a baby Earthside. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. And that's kind of what brought me to the doula life and my business
Yeah.
and my podcast and kind of everything that I do now.
Mm.
Mhm. There is a happy ending to this story. I mean, all of it is
Yeah.
in itself happy. And,
Yes.
with grief, there's so much great love. And, but I did welcome my Earthside daughter 2 years ago. So I have a 2-year-old now. So there's a lot of mothering going on to many different realms and aspects and
Yeah.
different ways. Yeah.
Well, I don't think, first of all, thank you, Kristin, for just really so beautifully and authentically articulating your journey, and concisely. Like there's
It's
so
very
much that went
concise.
on.
I
Yeah,
know.
you're really good.
Each story could be a whole podcast episode,
Oh, I
but
know that.
we'll keep it short.
100%. No, 100%. But to just get those nuggets out and get the arc, of what this journey has been like, I could feel it all and know that there everything in between there, and you wouldn't be able to speak about it or be speaking about it, even with some of the language that you're using, without having done what I'm assuming is a lot of work on, with yourself and with the loss and with the grief and, what each, as you said, the transformation that comes and is possible with the healing in these times. So I don't think that you had these and then just read about what it could be and
Oh no, we went deep.
You have lived it. Yeah.
Yeah, we were submerged in it. So
Yeah. So we're gonna want to hear some about that, because as you said, I know it'll take many podcasts, which I'm happy to do with you. And I know you share on your podcast a lot about it. But this, but that okay. So the first thing that's striking me throughout, and obviously resonating with, is this kind of misconstrued concept that we've been holding for so many, thousands of years, that you're only a mother if you birth and raise an earth baby, like using that terminology. And otherwise, sorry, you don't get that identity. And that's a big part of my mission, underneath, is to expand that definition and have us honor and hold all the ways that we mother, and share, live that mother energy in countless, probably infinite, amount of ways. But the pain that comes when that isn't honored, and the confusion and the chaos. And I think you struck that chord really beautifully in what you shared, that what the heck, right? Like,
yeah, like I don't consent to that at all.
Yeah.
Don't agree.
We are, exactly. There were times I was like, yeah, no, it just that.
Well, there's times
mama
you
bear,
want to fight
for
it. Yeah, there's times you really want to fight it, and there's other times you crumble underneath that, right? Because it's depending on the day.
So I guess I don't know if, like, maybe first out of that, to just speak even more into, how this loss, the losses that you've experienced, change your understanding of what it means to be a mother. And even though I get it, like right off the.
Of course you do. Yeah. Well, I think the first thing that, that was confusing after loss was this idea that you aren't viewed as a mother until your baby's Earthside. I always went back to my own childhood and my own raising with my mother and or other mothers that I knew. And you know what? Anyone can birth a baby, right? Not everyone can be a mother. Like I for sure have a big motherhood wound. So just that idea of, not being in this club because my baby wasn't Earthside was really confusing to me, just because, well, I felt like I was more of a mother than some of the mothers that actually had children here. Because it all goes back to how you define what a mother actually is and how that shows up. And my experience with loss and how that, shifted my understanding of what it meant to be a mother is because, before I lost my baby, it always went back to the idea that meant you had a child on earth. But after experienced loss, I realized that it was more so rooted in love. And like love doesn't really end, right? And motherhood became something that I was rather than something, and something that I was doing,
Yeah.
right? Rather than just an act to a living child. It really did show me that mothering can exist beyond that physical presence. So, like I said, one of the things I do in my work is, there's a quote that's grief is just love with no place to go, right? Is all that unexpressed love. What do you do with that love, that mother love? And there are ways, where you can step into your motherhood role, into that motherly, loving role to the babies that you've lost. And that's one of the really big things that we work on at my work. And also, again, going back to the idea of mothering yourself, right? Because, when I did go through all these profound losses, I didn't have a mom to lean on. And that is a time where, you need your mother, not just, birth itself and becoming a mother yourself, but profound loss as well, right? And I really had to step into a role where I was my own mother and I had to give myself the things that I wasn't getting elsewhere. So when you think of when you're really hurting and you're really grieving and you're needing your mother, like what are those things that you're actually needing?
Yeah.
And it's tender, loving care. It's maybe giving yourself permission to wrap yourself in a blanket and sit on the couch, knowing that it's okay to cry. You have permission to cry. Speaking to yourself kindly, like giving yourself the things that your mother would ultimately give you. And I think grief really made me realize that, yeah, mothering really is an act and it's something that I can do for myself. It's something that I do every day with my babies through various different things. And we can get into that too.
Yeah. I know. I will
Yeah, but
definitely
it's not
but keep
just,
going. No.
yeah, it's not just with a living child. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned, yeah, there's like, oh my gosh, okay, slow down because there's like so many things, and everything that you're talking about that we want to get out here as best we can. But you said something that struck me, witnessing women who had children, but I don't know how you worded it, like didn't understand or weren't mothering, so to speak. There's a really important distinction that I think you're making that I'd love for you to unpack a little bit more. What were you seeing, and what was it that
Well, it's
that
not necessarily with any of my clients, because I think the act of even hiring a doula and involving
yeah
a doula in your birth in itself is like going, it's stepping into a more caring, more yeah, like caring and like this is of importance. It's so of
yeah
importance that I'm going to even hire a doula. So I often did see it myself, but I do and did witness it around me, right? Just disconnected women, disconnected to themselves, disconnected to their children. I mean, we do live in a culture where everything is very convenient. Like our children are supposed to be convenient, and it's really busy and chaotic, right? And so a lot of the time we see, if a mother can't, meet themselves where they're at and tend to themselves, how are they supposed to tend to a baby?
yeah
So there is a big disconnect there, I find, and that's been something that I've definitely have witnessed for sure.
yeah well, I think that's a perfect word to encapsulate it. When we're disconnected from ourselves, and this isn't a shameful thing, right? Like, oh, shame on you for being disconnected for
No,
yourself and not
totally
giving. It's
not.
like there's wounds and pain and a reason, very valid reasons why, you're in a disconnected state. And
Mm-hmm.
I find that, the recognition of that, and any awareness that when a woman realizes that and realizes she's disconnected, like I think that's one of the first big acts of self-mothering, right? Of
Yeah,
mothering
well,
ourselves is
well, I
to
think that's what happened with me too, right? And it took my losing my daughter for me to kind of wake up to that reality of like, because it was something I like literally couldn't avoid tending to
yeah.
myself, right? It demanded me to connect with myself and to tend to myself and to kind of see things in a new light and perspective, right?
Mhm. Yeah, and just to go along with that, when you name like, oh, what, I may not be able to get it from my actual mother, and a lot of women, a lot of us didn't. I mean, there's a lot of us out there that are, kind of expected, and you're just supposed to know how to be this loving mother and get that that's like the, both the beauty and kind of the job, or like what's, and if we didn't receive it, how the heck are we, even
Totally.
though
And
we
it,
yearn for it and we know, like and we know it was missing and we know it's something, but it, it, it it's something that, I mean, and I talk about that you can learn, you can get reconnected to. And if you didn't have it, you're going to need to give it as much to yourself as you are, a child or in
totally.
that, and learn that for yourself.
Yeah, and I do think being a woman that there is like an innate deep
Yep.
knowing, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that can get in the way. And even for our own mothers,
Mm-hmm.
even just me losing my daughter, it's made me take a look at my relationship with my mother and also have compassion for her because of the
Yeah.
things that she didn't get or the things that she was modeled and the things that are getting in the way from her being
Yep.
that person for herself, right? It's all connected.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, and that's the beauty, a piece of the beauty, and you haven't named it, but um, is breaking those lines of generational trauma or lack, or, the not valuing ourselves enough to give ourselves the care that we need or get it, in some way. And shifting those long-standing generational patterns too. So
They're not
your
easy to do.
daughter is, having, if we can move it, just even a degree or two in the right direction, it's making a big difference.
Totally.
So what she's seeing and having modeled through you, having worked on your own healing, worked, to get to the space that you're in now, and you're going to continue, right? We're never done, but that's
Well, both of my
such a
daughters,
gift.
yeah, both the one I lost and the one
Yeah.
that's Earthside, they have been such huge catalysts for me to show up for myself, right?
Mhm.
Because I'm like, I have a daughter up there that's watching me, and like, I
Yeah.
want to make her proud and I want to be healed. And I'm going to miss her forever and forever wish she was here. But how can I, not make something out of it, but how can I use this experience of losing her to help other people and, create something good out of it.
Hmm.
And with my daughter here, it's the same thing. It's, how can I be the best mother for her and heal some of these wounds that I have myself by being able to show up as that mother that I desperately needed. They're for sure, my why and my catalyst
Hmm.
to like make those changes for sure.
Yeah.
To see
No, it's,
myself.
yeah, absolutely. And it's so beautiful. And um, I want to dig into a little because, we've been talking about the how we stay in relationship with our loss, your lost children. This could be
Hmm.
losses, that any of us experience along the way, but particularly I think as a mother having lost a child, how much our culture, our Western, I'm assuming in Canada, it's not that much different than the US,
No.
right? Like, as far as, well, you have a loss, like you're doing it right if you just get over it, if you just put it behind you, if these terms that were, are so supposedly like the way it's supposed to go, right? And I mean everything from the worst case, which is just like get over it and like move on,
Like, when are
to
you trying again? You could try again.
yeah, and just kind of skipping over, and just how much is lost. And I points to our current culture of like fear of death and just wanting to avoid anything related to it. So we'll just, be done with it, and not realize and miss out on the richness. And I would, well, I'm probably going to ask 3 questions here, and you can go wherever you want, because there's the richness of staying in relationship with a spirit baby, angel baby, however, that soul that was in human form and that we've designated like, a long life is the only valid life, right? On earth, as opposed to, well, we don't know what the heck, right? Like
We have no idea, right?
we have no idea, right? Like our little lives are like just a grain of sand, right?
Totally.
So I guess we want to think it's so much bigger and better than her 36 weeks, or I forget exactly how
31,
long.
yeah.
31, sorry. Her 31-week human, in a human body life matters any less than someone who lives to 100, right? Like and I think you're kind of piercing, those beliefs, and having us look at like, let's expand that, like, no. And so there's that whole side of it. And then there's the whole side of like, yeah, like no, it's not about getting over the loss. It's about what a gift that spirit still is, in my life. Who that being that chose me and we chose each other are still in relationship. Like that doesn't go away just
No.
because they, I buried them. They're just cycling through life themselves. So anyway, wherever you want to go with the kind of questions, comments that I just put out there.
I mean, her presence in my life, it might, like, her physical being here was short. It is short compared to other people, and my son's as well.
Yeah.
But look at the impact she's had. Do you know what I mean? What is a life, and what is impact, and what is, our purpose for being here?
Yeah.
And there's so many things that you could argue in this, but her presence might have been brief, but it has been transformative. And it still transforms, just through the work I do. Like every person I come in contact with, the mother that I show up as today, my everyday, she's woven into everything. And everyone I come into contact gets a piece of her and my son just from the transformation that they've brought me. And even with, spirits, I think this was part of your question, and how she like shows up in my life other than interwoven, and how do I mother her, and how do I mother my son and my spirit babies. And it's so true. Like we know nothing about this life. And I feel like the veil is very thin. It's a lot more thin than I think we are able to conceptualize or understand. Like I think this world is a drop in the bucket personally.
Yeah.
And I think for me to show up as their mother and to mother them, because again, it's that love that has nowhere to go. We can still use that love and express that love. And it could be through so many different things. And like I said, I express that love every day because she's just interwoven through me, but it's also through literal acts, just like I do with my daughter here on earth. And right now, like, even as we chat, I have my candle lit and that's them. Oh, that's them. And there's a ladybug. I just took a video. There's a ladybug of crawling across the window across. And I'm like, I asked them, for a sign, to know that they're here. And I'm like, there you go. That's them showing up. And other ways we do that, we honestly have them be a part of our family just as much as my daughter on earth. And We celebrate their birthdays. We make sure to memorialize any important days. We include them in holidays. We talk to them like I would be talking to you. And like for some people,
Yeah.
that might be crazy, but they're my babies and I'm their mother. And like that's how I get to express that love. And, we also don't know if we're done trying. We don't know if another baby would ever join us Earthside, but I can still even be a mother to that baby that I haven't met yet or called into my womb yet. And the same ways that I've, mentioned before. And it's just that relationship, tending to that relationship and having it be a presence and a something, tactful in my life all the time. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was more, you know, it's much
Hey,
me going into it and having you, react and respond. So
totally,
yeah,
totally.
thank you. No, I think it's beautiful. And I know that you're creating a space for women in this arena that they wouldn't even have known as possible before, right? So it's just so beautiful and important. Because there's something you talk about, reading over some of your work and listening that I think goes along with this is there's the if you've experienced the loss like you have and culture telling you like get over it and all that, there is just that genuine or also feeling of wow, do I want to go through that again to try again? And I saw you speak a little bit about that and some of what I saw. If you could share about that, because I think that journey in and of itself is so vulnerable and rich, but so important to be intentional about or aware and healing that might need to come in that space.
Yeah, and there's no like right answer for this, I think, because I think no matter what you choose after experiencing profound loss, the loss of your child, your pregnancy, if you were to say like I don't want to do that again, that would be totally valid because there's not a
Yeah.
lot of times where people experience trauma and then say, okay, I'm up and I'm ready to do that again. Like, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like people
Yes.
don't, their house doesn't burn down and then they set their next house on fire. Like
Right. Let's
it's
do that
just,
let's do that again. Yeah. No,
it's not
exactly.
something, yeah, it's not something that we do. So the act of just making that choice, that courageous choice, that in itself, that is a mother. Like that is a mother's love because there's nothing. It's funny because I use the analogy of a house burning down, but like if that was a mother's love, of course we're running into that house,
Hmm.
right? Like no fire could keep you separated from, that idea or that calling of, this little human waiting for you, right? So I think like when we do make that courageous choice, there is a lot of tending that we need to do,
Hmm.
mothering we need to do. This is like when showing up as your mother is of utmost importance. Because like when you think about, we talked about what does that look like, after this. And one
Yeah.
of the big things is safety, right? Is like how do we create a sense of safety? And because that's what our moms do. They're supposed to make us feel safe. So how do we make ourselves feel safe when we made this choice in something that has felt so inherently unsafe? Our nervous system is lit up. We are searching for danger. We're always scanning. So a lot of my work really is about women finding that sense of safety. And that could be through connection with other moms who are experiencing it. It could be through preparation, and that could mean your mind, your home, your body, your relationship, and just tons and tons of compassion. Like feeling safe and feeling safety isn't about, being without fear.
Right.
It means, feeling supported enough to hold the fear, but also have trust through it.
Hmm.
And knowing that if, your house was to burn down again, that you are still there and you have that support. And I know we mentioned before, like you asked me about shame and all of these like unwritten, we're told to get over it. We're told to, kind of move on and be strong, be thankful, right? But those messages, they really disconnect us from our truth and our inner knowing that we already are mothers. So again, like rewriting that and stepping into unwriting those unhelpful messages, we give ourselves like that permission to grieve and to be human and to hold gratitude and to hold sorrow. And that can all still be done while we make that choice again and doing those things that is showing up as our own mother, right? And it's finding that healing through that as well.
Yeah. No, thank you. And I was, you brought in all the things that I was hoping, like around the creating safety and what that can look like, and how you're creating a safe space for yourself to venture into, until you experience it, because no one is immune to the possibility of the
Totally.
of a loss, right, of some sort. So,
well, it's the one thing that we can't control, the outcome of what's going to happen. So it's like, how do we hold ourselves in this like era of uncertainty, right?
Yes.
Like, how do we create safety when it is so unsafe, right?
Yep.
So a lot of that, it looks different for different people, but it really does always return to compassion and taking care of yourself and giving yourself permission to feel the things that you need to feel. And again, like being your own mother, like sometimes that might look like, okay, you're scared today and we're safe to feel it. And like, let's go feel it. And then we're going to give ourselves a hug and we're going to pick ourselves back up,
Yeah. No, and knowing that, those actions, those, kind of ways of being are, I think, also connected to a word we haven't used yet, and within this is our intuition, and is,
totally.
fostering that aspect of like getting in touch with our bodies, our emotions, ourselves, and that intuitive sense to know, is this a day like I need the afternoon to just curl up in my bed and cry or lay there or whatever, or is this a day like, like we're the only one who can tell ourselves
what we need.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that sometimes, I know, like, I remember the first time I became aware that I had all the answers inside me, and I was mad about that.
It's a lot of responsibility, right?
Yes. I was like, wait, isn't that what everybody out there is for? The experts, like, because I had a very overly dependent relationship with my mother and enmesh. So it's like, that was my external like decision maker. Like,
can someone, I want to offload this to someone else.
It. Yeah. Authorities always know better than me. What are you talking about? And that was like, my wiring for so long that it's like, and I have at first it's like this first experience, like, oh, like I have wisdom inside of me. Like I really know.
I have to learn
this mixture. And it's like, wait, like wait, I don't know if I like that, even though it's great. Right. So all these different experiences we can have when we come to that realization.
Well, I think that I'm glad you brought this up because it's true. We haven't mentioned this, and it's a huge part of being a mother, no matter what motherhood looks like to you.
Yeah.
Your intuition is like it's the divine knowing. And if you've, lived your whole life not listening to your intuition, if you have, like you said, been enmeshed maybe with your own mother, or, you've been told that your intuition is wrong for so long. So like when we lost my daughter, the reason we lost her is because no one would listen to me. And I had a hard time deciphering, this feels like something is going on, but other people telling me like, that's not what's going on. And I was like, I feel like it is. But I had lived my life for so long, not listening to my intuition. I wasn't like, no, I know this is it and I'm following it and I have permission to follow it. And this is a whole part of that unraveling too. That is really important. But one of the things that we pay a lot of attention to, whether it's, post we just lost our baby or we're stepping into this, angel mother role or earth mother role, is like knowing that that is like the divine teacher or compass is really what our intuition says. It doesn't matter what society or your care providers or your own mother, it doesn't matter what they say. It's like, what does your gut say? There's this trending expression on like social media right now is like mother's intuition is data. And it's like so true. Like a mother's intuition could tell us a lot more than some care provider that doesn't really know
Me.
us,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Like, yeah, sure. They're going by experience. They're have studies of certain, a sample of people,
Sure.
that maybe they've had experience with, but that isn't you, right? And that isn't, we're to get lumped in. So, yeah, I mean, what we're talking about here is becoming an advocate of our own voice so that in the midst of something, high pressure, high tension, we're so vulnerable. You're at your most vulnerable, rawest in the midst of, giving birth and at a time like that to advocate. I think that's one of because women being heard, it's still in our culture, like a woman's voice or that we have to fight so hard,
Yeah, we
for,
really
and
do.
it's not a given even then, but this in that vulnerable situation where we don't have time to like argue and be with or kind of really bring myself forward. I'm going to say this even though it's like maybe it's overly dramatic, but it's like criminal. It's criminal that we're not listened to. It's like
No,
it's
it does
so
feel criminal.
wrong.
And you know what? And that's why community and even having a doula is so valuable. Like a lot of people, doulas are like this new agey, they might seem like a luxury, but in those moments that are high pressure, when our big emotions or our trauma or our limiting beliefs or our wounding, whatever it might be, gets in the way, having someone on your side lovingly say like, how do you feel, and listening to you and reminding you that you are wise and intuitive, and like it's okay to take a minute and to tap into that inner knowing. It's honestly priceless. Like I know I could use that every day, right? To have someone tell me that.
Yes.
We all have it. We all have that
Yeah.
intuition. It's just actually being able to pause and to know how to tap into it and actually like pay attention to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So many tangents I could go on with that one, but it's definitely a strong stance of mine and something that I want to do everything I can to support all of us to be these advocates for ourselves and have support around us and make sure we have that support around us, so we have our the people, if they're going to speak for me, they're speaking from me and my experience, like by knowing
Like
me,
knowing
not
me.
by,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And
Not their
knowing,
own biases or their own, yeah, from that deep. Yeah, I totally get
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Um, all right. So I want to find okay. So when you're I want to hear a little bit now, if you don't mind, like okay, before I talk like specifically about how you work with women, and maybe this is woven in, it could be the same question or it could be not, because I know we're in some ways acting like, oh yeah, you just, work on that and you learn to talk to yourself. Like this is, this is work, this isn't, we don't just, we can make the decision like, oh, I'm going to be kinder to myself, or I'm going to tune into my intuition when I've never done that before, or
Yeah,
how do
it's
I
not just
start
something that
that?
you can like
Yeah.
put into your
Turn a
routine
switch on.
overnight. Yeah, I wish that would be
I
so
know.
nice
Wouldn't
if
that be
we
great?
could.
Yeah. But we can say, like, I'm going to do that and make that choice and decision. And then it's a practice and a rewiring. And I'm wondering, like, so I'm sure it's a kind of a combination of like what you did for yourself that you now, you know, work to bring to other women. And so you can talk about both.
Yeah. Well, I think you just said it. It really is a practice, right? So with our intuition, even like learning how to tap into our intuition, that is a practice. It's learning how to trust in yourself. So it depends on what we're talking about. So I know a lot of the time when we're dealing with pregnancy after loss, and those are most of the clients that I'm dealing with, or even navigating life after loss, like trying to conceive again. A lot of that can come through education. So just like learning a little bit more. And I feel like a lot of that comes through learning to trust, right? Our bodies again. And sometimes that comes through education. So not just like blindly walking into something, but actually like learning a little bit more about it. And then to tap into your intuition, it's, making choices about how you feel and like testing it out. It might have to be a conscious decision, right? Like, I'm going to go with this. We'll see how it ends up. And then using that as feedback, being like, oh, like things didn't fall apart. And, it really is a rewiring. So one of that is practice. So continually returning back to having to tell yourself to trust yourself. And sometimes that can be hard. So sometimes that might be, if you've never done it, you're going to need reminders. So for me, I love to like put a note on my phone. So like that could be like an affirmation that pops up on my phone, reminding me like, no, Kristin, like you are really smart. You are really wise. You are the expert of your body. You are your baby's mother. You are a mother. And like, act accordingly. And you're like, yes, I'm going to choose to do that today. And it might not be perfect all the time. You might be days where it is too much. You're like, I can't step into that today. Like we're taking a day off, and that's okay. But the more you tap into it and step into that and trust yourself, the more you're learning that it's safe to do that. And you're building that muscle. And I think the other thing you talked about, so there's intuition. What was the other one you mentioned?
Practice. We
Okay,
talked about
yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
That you can learn things. I don't know, what else did I say?
I know. I know that intuition was one of them. So why don't we talk about, it's not just like the permission, let's just say, to like feel your feelings. If you've never felt your feelings before, feeling your feelings is actually like a really unsafe place to be, because it can be too much. So what we talk about is like giving yourself like little permissions or little like dates to feel your feelings. So on Wednesday mornings, I have space. Here's my plan to feel my feelings, and here's how I'm going to recover from doing that. And like being able to gracefully go back into your day. So, life is really busy, and sometimes we don't have the space to fall apart. We don't have the space to feel our feelings. So, having like little routines, saying like, I'm going to do that on Wednesday morning, and I'm going to take myself for a walk after. And then how am I going to mother myself out? I'm going to take myself for a walk. I'm going to buy myself a treat and let myself know it's okay. And again, it's building that muscle. Like, okay, I'm giving myself that opportunity to feel safe, to feel my feelings, and I'm moving it through my body. I'm not just going to sit in it, but how are we going to return back to like a grounded state? So that could be going for a walk. That could be doing breath work. We do a lot of breath work in our program. Work, yeah. Or tapping, or doing different modalities to like move the energy through your body and to come back to a grounded state. So we do a lot of that. I'm trying to return back to your question.
No, this is exactly it.
Yeah, it is a lot of rewiring.
Just to get an idea, right?
Yeah.
Like to understand, like there are technologies, there's, ways that to kind of give some security and safety to know we can step into this, and it's not just, oh my God, this
No. I would never be like
job or task, or it's doable with small steps. Right?
I think another huge part. So I have a program. It's called The Haven, and it's for women specifically who are pregnant again after loss. It's for the women that are really, stepping back into this thing and needing a lot of support. They're stepping back into their trauma, and they're holding grief and they're holding trust in one hand, and they're like, how do I navigate all of this? And I think a large part of it too is, learning the intuition. We're learning how to move the energy. We're allowing ourselves to feel. But I think another huge part is being in community. So
Yes.
not surrounding yourself by the people that say, you should be over this. How do you still feel this way? You're not a mother. All those people that, we're feeling so differently than them. We're not being seen. We're not being held. We're not being shown like that loving care. But being in a community of other women who have, walked through some variation of the same thing as you and that can see you and validate you and hold it with you
Yeah.
is huge because, it's such a different world that 99% of the world isn't going to understand. And that's a really lonely experience to stay in that world,
Sure.
right? So coming into a community where women get it is
Mm-hmm.
like all the other things, like the intuition and all these other things, those all become so much easier when we
Mm-hmm.
have a world that sees us and is going through it too. And you're like, it's okay that this feels hard and I'm not expected to like know how to use my intuition overnight because like
Mm-hmm.
look at all this other proof of other women who are also
Yeah.
struggling and it's okay.
Other women on the journey, and we need each other, right? I think
We
I've really
do.
come to get that this year, that in this, work I do with women on self-mothering, to understand that self-mothering, yes, it starts with you and it has to, and this core sense of self and all of that, but it really only ignites and really becomes real in community. I think, with women.
Totally.
It sounds self-mothering requires community. It's-
Well, we also have a community of women who have experienced loss and they're not sure where their life is going to go. And
yeah.
like it's totally like I said before, it's totally okay if you find motherhood in a different way than an earth child, but it's so hard to do that by yourself to make those
Yes.
choices. But if
Yes.
you have a community that's doing that with you and that sees it's so much easier. And like even just the act of mothering yourself, like if you've never done it before and you start trying to incorporate this in your world and your life and you're like, am I doing this all by myself? It's so much harder to
Hmm.
keep that up and to
Yeah.
make those changes and have them be, you know, stick.
Hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, this is a perfect segue, Kristen, into, you've mentioned the Haven, you mentioned another community. How do people find you and find out all these beautiful ways that you're supporting other women on this journey?
Yeah, so I'm
Can they
a
find you?
I'm a big Instagram freak.
You have a beautiful, yes, you have a beautiful
Yes,
Instagram. It's
that's where I
wonderful.
live. I live the most. I'm at the doula.life. I also do have my podcast as well. I was saying, before we recorded, it's so funny to be on the other side of this. Usually I'm the
Yes.
person that, is interviewing. But I also have my podcast, and that's called The Rainbow Connection. So you can find that on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and it also has its own Instagram. But those are the places I hang out the most, and that women can get connected if they are wanting to, if they've just experienced loss and looking for support, or they're thinking about trying again, or they're in immediate going through loss and
Yeah,
needing that immediate support too. I serve women from that all the way to welcoming their child in whatever way that
sure.
looks. But that's where I hang out most.
Yay. Well, it's a profoundly beautiful and a gift. I'm so glad you're doing the work that you're doing, Kristen, and that your journey has taken you here and is providing this safe and beautiful space for us to foster this kind of healing and connection and awareness and expansion, of mothering and motherhood. So thank you.
You're so
But
welcome. I mean, our
one,
stories are, oh, sorry.
oh no, no, our stories
I
are
was going to
beautiful.
say, our stories are so important because there's a long
Yes.
time where I had this experience where I felt so isolated. And these kind of conversations and these stories just are such a great, window into other people's existence and provide so much validation. And yeah, it's just such an honor to be here and to share with you today.
Yay.
Yeah.
Well, I have one last question that I ask all my
Sure.
guests, and that is, what does rewrite the mother code mean to you?
What does it mean to me? I think it means just like boldly stepping into every role that I have as a mother and like kind of letting go what I thought motherhood was and knowing that how I view it and how I want to act it out in every way that I act it out. I have permission to do that, and it's
Mhm.
perfect in itself.
You're here. Oh, thank you so much. I always feel like those answers are such a gift to hear spoken through others and your perspective. It's really beautiful. Well, thank you for being on the other side of the mic
Thank
today.
you.
I can't wait to come on the Rainbow Connection. That's an honor, and we'll be doing that soon. But this has been immense and beautiful, and I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, that was beautiful. Sitting down with Kristin to look at this particular lens of ways that we mother and ways that our mothering is discounted in our culture and in our world, and the mothering that happens on this earthly plane, and the mothering that happens and the relationship that happens with our losses, and particularly with Kristin, losses of our babies. And I love that this is the work that Kristin has taken on, and through her experience, when we go through something, and I think this is such a way that we then continue to care for ourselves, but then extend that care to others by, you know, bringing it into the world and continuing to do that work for ourselves as we, share it, as we teach, as we go on the journey with, as we mother others, in this same. I haven't had that experience in my mothering journey in this lifetime of loss of a child in any, you know. Now I feel like I a little superstitiously need to knock on wood or something. But early loss like that, and what, how mistreated it is. But I can have empathy and imagine, just from my own experiences of my mothering journey, that has been discounted or mistreated. But it's its own, it's its own experience, and we need to honor these specific experiences in the way, that best honors them, right? And there's a lot of crossover, and there's ways that those of us who haven't experienced it can still support and care and tend to, along with making sure that we're in environments where we do have the shared experience, because I think that is really, just the deepest place, and the safest place for our healing. So I think that's one of the big things I want to take from this, is that honoring. And I want us all honoring our journeys, and, you know, using our voices. And I was thinking about a couple things, from my book, Rewrite the Mother Code, particularly in this arena of caring and self-mothering ourselves around loss, but anytime that we're experiencing something that isn't understood, isn't embraced in a way that is, you know, gives us sovereignty and gives us, that is honored. And we need to create that for ourselves. And when we do, when we rewrite codes, when we, follow our path, there's a process that I shared in the book called making a pact with ourselves. And in that pact, PACT, the P being patience, having patience with ourselves in our healing, in our journey, the making of mistakes, the learning along the way. A for affirming, affirming ourselves all throughout, affirming all of the emotions that we're having, affirming the reality of our lived reality of our embodied experience. Having compassion. I think giving compassion comes from having to others, really starts with learning to give it to ourselves. And what does that journey look like? And going on a journey of self-compassion, and then trust, trusting our intuition, trusting our experience, really being discerning about where we're putting our trust, in relationship. And, that allows us to continue to stay true, to the path that we're going on, that may be a little more uncharted, that, we're facing anything from discrimination to the negative ways that innocently people are treating things just because it's how it's always been done. We just have been for a long time treating the loss of a pregnancy or, a child as something to just get over and get back on it and try again, without honoring the process for ourselves. So that is what I wish and hope for you. And we work on this so deeply and so, extensively on my self-mothering retreats. I practice it. I do in my coaching such deep work and such, from the practical to the spiritual to the emotional kind of, the work that we talked about. Like, the work needs to get done, and we need to, try new behaviors and rewire and practice, and we can do it any and all ways. And I honor all of them. But I know for me, always working with a coach, just, I don't know, kind of helps it go faster, helps me stay on track. And I feel like I'm not alone, and I'm partnered. So I would love to be that for you and with you. So reach out anytime, DM me on Instagram, or go to my website and fill out that contact form, and we'll go from there. All right. Blessings. Bye-bye.